Welcome to Expert Profiles Atlanta, where Atlanta's influencers and innovators share strategies for overcoming obstacles and achieving success in business and life. Here's your host, best-selling author and Atlanta influencer, Neil Howe.
Hello, and welcome to the show. This is Neil Howe, your host, and today my guest is Jasmine Krnjetin. She helps people that are looking to buy a home and get the best mortgage loan for them with as little stress as possible. Jasmine has been a mortgage consultant for over 17 years, and most recently she's been ranked as a top 1% mortgage originator in America by the Mortgage Executive magazine. That is big congratulations for that. Jasmine, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Neil. It's a pleasure.
Well, let's hear just a little bit more about you and the Jasmine team and how you're helping your clients.
Yeah, so we are a local mortgage lender here in Atlanta, and we work with probably 50% of our clients are first-time home buyers. So it's people that are just looking to get into homes that need somebody to walk them through the process of buying a home. A lot of people get overwhelmed because there is a lot of paperwork and people don't understand how much of a home they can afford to buy. And so I love helping people make those smart financial decisions and buying that first home, where they're trying to scrape together their first down payment, their $3,000 down payment, and just pulling it all together so we can get them into a home. So we enjoy figuring things out. It's sort of a puzzle. Everybody comes to you with a different set of problems, with different priorities, and just working with people to get them into good homes is what makes us happy around here.
Yes, you must have a lot of stories from people from all different walks of life. It's a very exciting time. I remember the first home that I bought. It's very exciting, but trying to pull all those things together and have the knowledge to have all those things in order is quite difficult for a first-time home buyer. So what kind of problems do you see them really running into?
Yeah, so I think that the first problem that we have is after the market meltdown, if you will, 2008, 2009. I think everybody kind of got scared and pulled away. And you saw young kids saw their parents lose money on their homes or lose their homes. And so what we're dealing with is we still have a lot of people sitting on the sidelines, not understanding that buying a home is not as hard as they think. So it's the misconception of, I need to have a perfect credit score. If I'm self-employed, I'm not going to be able to get a mortgage. I have to have a 20% down payment. That's a big one that we hear from people a lot. And, the reality is the guidelines have gotten tougher, which is a good thing because I feel that everybody to get some mortgage right now can afford to get a mortgage. As opposed to in the pre-meltdown era where, you would have a hairdresser walk in and say, yeah, I make $250,000 a year. And you wouldn't need to have any supporting documents, and they would just sign on the dotted line and get a loan. So, so some of the challenges are just getting people off the fence and getting people back into the market before the interest rates creep up too far, because affordability keeps slipping away. As you've probably heard in the news, interest rates have been going up this past few months. They've just gone up and up and up, and they're projected to continue. So the longer people sit on the fence, the less of a home they're going to be able to afford.
Right. Yes, I have seen that those interest rates are going up. What are they, about 4.5, almost 4.5 now?
Yeah, exactly. It's taken me a little while to get used to saying 4 point something. It's been 3 point something for so long that I'm like, your rate is 4 point.
So what does home ownership look like right now across the country? Because, like you stated, there were issues, but that's 10 years ago now. But there's still the thoughts that it's out of the question for many people. What has that done to home ownership across the country, and how does it differ in Atlanta? Because Atlanta's a fairly hot market right now.
Yes, so it's Atlanta has been very interesting because we seem to have kind of bounced back, and I think that the biggest challenge that we have right now is probably inventory. That is very different from some of the other markets out in the Midwest and some of the smaller towns where they still, the values haven't even gotten back up to where they were in 2007, 2008. We don't have those issues here in Atlanta. Our market has recovered really well. But it's kind of disheartening when you're a first-time home buyer and you finally find that perfect home that you get the courage to make the offer, and it's going to be, $280,000, the biggest purchase you've ever made. And you make that offer only to find out that there is 7 other couples who also want that home. So that's very tough, because then you have to pick yourself up and go find the next home and the next home. And a big challenge that we're dealing with right now is this thing we call buyer fatigue. The buyers just getting worn out from not getting the offer, not being able to get their foot in the door. And there is a lot of misinformation out there. When you see a house that's listed at 300 and you think you should go in at 90% of the asking price and, offer 270, those days are just not here anymore. Like now, if you basically are making a full price offer, if you want to get your foot in the door. And so that can be a little bit scary, especially for people who haven't done it before, or people that are used to the old ways of you don't offer full price because then you're not getting a good deal or something like that. So,
right. So in the situation that you just talked about, where you might have 7 different people going for the same house, what is the best strategy or way for somebody to actually be the one that is chosen?
Yeah. So number one, you have to be working with a really good real estate agent. So yeah, shout out to all of our real estate agent friends that have been doing it and that know how the business gets done. Number 2 is being approved with a local lender like us. It makes a big difference. So in this imaginary scenario, right, where the seller just received 7 offers on their table, and one of them is from some big, one of the offers comes in and it has a pre-approval letter from some big national bank, and another one comes in and it has like one of those online pre-approval, get it done in 3 seconds kind of pre-approvals on it. Right. And then they come to our offer, which is going to be something from a local lender that says, here's my cell phone, here's my address, I'm in your neck of the woods. We have local appraisers who understand how the market works. We have reviewed your borrower's income, tax returns, W-2s, pay stubs. We have looked through their bank statements, and we have approved this borrower. We have not just pre-qualified or kind of glanced at their credit. We have actually fully approved this borrower, and this offer is not contingent on a financing, the financing being okay. This offer is based on somebody who's fully approved. That is what we are trying to do for our buyers. We're trying to make sure that they have these approval letters that are as good as cash, if you will, when they go in, so they come across very strong, so that when the seller sees that they're fully approved, not just kind of quasi pre-qualified, they will choose them over the other guys because they know that they're working with somebody that's a trusted local banker that's going to get the deal done for them.
That's great. So you're really doing a lot of the deep dive work up front and going into, if they can really afford it, rather than just saying, yes, here's the preliminary letter and, see how you get on with that.
Yeah.
And of course, that's got to give you great credibility as well. Once you've established yourself in a town like Atlanta, doing that due diligence first, more people are going to want to work with you.
Yeah, that is that is the hope. At least we have been at this for a couple decades almost. So we definitely have some friends out there on the street that know us by name and that trust our letters. It's we kind of try to position ourselves as this boutique shop where our clients walk in, and we subscribe to this philosophy of high touch, high tech, if you will, because today's millennial buyer, they're going to want to be able to text me, they're going to want to be able to have an app for everything on their phone. So we have to keep pushing forward with this technology aspect of it. So that's the high tech, where they can e-sign all the documents, they can upload everything, is secure through portals, it's all perfectly buttoned up on that front. But at the same time, they really need somebody to come and meet with. Like, every one of my clients comes into my office, they sit down with me for about 45 minutes or an hour before they even go out to look at properties, and we talk about all of their fears. We talk about, what is your cash to close going to look like? What is your monthly payment going to feel like? What range should you be looking in? And so that's the high touch part of it, that they feel that there is a human there. It's not like that you're dealing with a big bank where you have to call in and say, my loan number is 888 dash whatever, right? They actually have access to somebody who's there holding their hand through this. It's a big deal. Buying a home is not, it's not for the weak-hearted. You have to go out there, and it's an adventure, and you have to, find the home that you love. And we just try to be there to support all the things that you have to go through to get there. But it's really just about making people's dreams come true. And it's amazing to see how much fun we can have with it. When the offer gets accepted, or when we sit at the closing table and we celebrate together, it's a very rewarding job. I love it.
Yes, great wins right there. So as far as people coming in for a consultation, they're a first-time home buyer, what kind of things are you talking about? What kind of things do they need to get in line before you can really work with them?
So there is typically three things that you need to be able to get qualified for a mortgage. So it's income, credit, and assets. Those are the three things that we look for. So on the income side of things, generally we like to see a 2-year history. So if you're a W-2 employee, you just get salary. You're just going to bring in a couple W-2s and a pay stub, and you're good to go. If you're self-employed, you're going to bring in a couple years of tax returns, and then you're good to go. On the credit side of things, credit has loosened up. There used to be, we can now do loans for borrowers that have as low a credit score as 600. So, that there was a misconception out there for a while that you have to have perfect credit. 600 is sort of permission to play, and you can get a nice loan with at least a 600 credit score. And then assets, generally you're going to need at least about 3%. For a down payment. That's the minimum right now, is 3%. So if you've got those three things, then we should be good. We have what we need to work with, and we can find a loan product and a program that'll fit your needs. And most people these days get a 30-year fixed loan, generally. Very few people will come in asking for some sort of an adjustable rate or something like that. Generally, it's all just 30-year fixed, no prepayments, nothing funky about it, just a straight up Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac product. That seems to do the job these days.
That's maybe going back to those simple mortgages is the best way to go. That was very, very complex a decade ago. Yeah,
it just got a little bit too crazy out there.
So, as far as some of the other myths or misconceptions about the mortgage industry, what do people believe now compared to, what it was 10 years ago?
not 100% sure that I have one answer for that. I would say that people are still afraid to get into it. They're worried about predatory lending, and there is definitely a misconception of like the mortgage industry single-handedly brought down the entire economy. Mm-hmm. So, we still have people walking in and they're like, yeah, well, we don't trust anybody that is out there doing, offering mortgages, because, it's just a bunch of people that are trying to cheat the system or something like that. So that's one of those interesting things that we got stuck with post meltdown, is that, we had to fight the sleazy mortgage banker stereotype or something. So, but really, we're all out here just trying to help people get into homes, and the longer people wait to get into the game. I did some preliminary numbers for a client the other day, and we were looking at a $300,000 house at, if they buy a $300,000 house today versus waiting a year from now, that same house is going to have appreciated, 3 to 5%, and the interest rates are going to have gone up. If they keep trending the way they are, they're going to go from 4.5 to 5 point something. And so just waiting that 1 year, that same house is going to end up costing them $200 more a month if they buy it next year. And so you can see how just that sitting in that uncertainty and not picking up the phone to call your mortgage advisor to say, hey, can I get into the house right now? I think that would be like one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is just sitting on the sidelines too long and not getting in, because they're afraid.
And as far as the mortgage rates go, the interest rate, is there only one interest rate to choose from, or how do people qualify for certain rates?
So there is a few different things that go into the final interest rate. So I always tell people it's sort of like it's sort of like a seesaw, right? So let's say that you have on any given day on a 30-year fixed rate, there is going to be probably about 10 to 15 different interest rates that you can choose from. Mm-hmm. And they're going to range anywhere from, 3.5 all the way up to 5. And so on this spectrum, let's say that let's say 4.5 is kind of like this neutral zone on the seesaw, right? That's where you're not getting any credit from the lender for that rate. You're not paying any extra money for that rate. That's kind of like your happy neutral zone, right? And then if you choose to, you could spend extra money and buy down that interest rate, which would then make your cash to close go up. So that part of the seesaw bumps up, but your interest rate goes down. And the other way as well, it works in reverse. You could have fewer dollars that you spend at closing, but your interest rate is going to bump up. So that's just a kind of a generic visual that I always offer people. Like, when people ask me, what is your interest rate? It's kind of, there is a lot of interest rates that you can choose from on any given day. Some of the things that do impact your interest rate are, what is your credit rating? Like, credit scores are important. How much money are you putting down? That's another big factor. What type of a property is it? Like, is it a condo? Is it a duplex? Is it a single family? So those are some of the other factors that go into figuring out the final interest rate for the client. Debt to income ratios, loan to value. Yeah. So those are some of the terms that we deal with, and when it comes to figuring out the final interest rate that somebody gets to lock in.
Well, Jasmine, you've said a couple of times that you really like working with people to, buy that home of their dreams, and it's very exciting to celebrate. Is there any one story that stands out in your mind of somebody that you've been able to help out? How did they come to you? What were they thinking? Did they not think they would qualify or something like that? What were you able to do for them? And ultimately, what was the outcome?
So one of the interesting things that is going on right now is some people that are already in a home, they have equity in their house. but they need to sell their house in order to be able to buy their next home. And so people kind of get stuck in this loop of like, how am I going to make an offer on a house because I need a down payment on this house? And so I had a client that I was just talking to yesterday, and she was saying, I don't understand, how do people do this? I need the money from this house, but how am I going to sell this house? And nobody out there is accepting contingency offers. Nobody's taking the offer that says the purchase of this house is contingent on the sale of that home. And so it was just one of those things where we kind of got to walk through it. And, generally what happens is that you will put your house on the market first, and then you will pick a closing date for that house. And then meanwhile, you go out and you try and find your next home pretty quickly and you line up that closing day to be the exact day that you sell your other house. And so that way the money, you sell your house at 10 a.m. and you buy your next house at noon. And it was just really fun to sort of see the light bulb go off, like, oh, that's how they do it. Because she was just kind of like, I'm never going to be able to sell because I don't have the down payment for this next home. So that's one of the fun things that we get to work with. It's sort of like putting together a puzzle. Everybody has a different scenario, and in general, I think it's I love when I have clients that walk in, and I had this one lady come in, and she was so sweet. She was so excited that when we figured out her cash to close, she came in and she just really did not believe she was going to be able to afford a house. And she had been saving for 2 years. She had been working on her credit, and she just kind of came in to see me and say, like, hey, what can I do? Like, how many more years am I going to have to save? And when we did our cash to close analysis, she was so excited. She was literally in tears about the fact that she could afford to buy a house right now. And she was like, I can't believe I'm sitting in a real mortgage office talking to a real mortgage banker, and I can afford to buy a home. So it's fun. I love it. I love figuring this stuff out. And, the longer you do it, the better you get at solving the problems. Because every situation is unique and every client is different.
That's right, they are. So what inspired you to become a mortgage consultant in the first place? Before I started doing this, I had a little marketing company that I did. I used to call people, I used to work for IT companies and set up appointments for the IT guys to go out and sell their products. So I would get them in front of the people that they needed to see. And so I started doing some, just by doing phone calls, I kind of got pretty good at, making appointments kind of a thing. And so then there was a need for somebody to make phone calls at a mortgage shop. So I kind of stumbled into it, and I just kind of fell in love with it. Once I figured out what it's all about, I was like, oh, this is really good stuff. I love it. Excellent. So can you share with us a lesson that you learned early on in your business life that still impacts how you do business today?
That's a very nice question. So I would say that, there are so many ways I could go with that question. Something that impacts my business today. So let's say that I always find that more than anything, the way you view a problem impacts the kind of solutions that come to you, if you will. So changing the way you look at a problem will also change the outcome, and will change the way you figure out solutions. So a lot of times when I have a problem that I'm trying to solve, I'll try and step away from it and just take a completely fresh stab at it. Like, say, let's not even worry about how I think I should solve this. Let's just look at this. If I was somebody who knew nothing about this problem, how would I solve it? And just really, I challenge myself a lot to just look at things from different perspectives, to glean some new inspiration as opposed to just getting stuck in a rut.
Right. And you can, once you are in business for so long, you can, start to treat everything different. But unless you do step back and look at the situation from, the potential homeowner's point of view, you might not really get the complete understanding of it. So that's definitely a good lesson.
Yeah, I think it's important to be able to, there's a home, buying a home, there's a lot of emotions, because you're dealing with people's money, number one, and you're dealing with people's emotions and homes. Mm-hmm. And so it's not just a transaction. It's not just a loan. There is a moving truck in the driveway with grandma and the dogs, and it's big emotions going on for everyone. And so I feel that my role is just to be the calm in the center of all this thing spinning around. But I'm always going to be the calm one that's going to keep everybody, just very level-headed throughout the process, and helping them just stay emotionally calm is really important. And I have turned to meditation myself. I meditate every day, not in any particular, I'm not non-dominational, if you will, just meditating just so that I can find that center within myself, so that when I go out into my day and I work with clients, I kind of have that point, that center that I can come back to, take a deep breath. It's like, okay, we're going to get through this. Everyone is going to be okay. But that's what I use in my daily life, just to keep myself grounded is about 20.
Yeah, people are certainly looking for that calm person that they can lean on when things are getting stressed and out of control. They need somebody that knows what they're doing and can stay calm. So what's the most important question a home buyer should ask themselves as they consider getting a mortgage?
I like to ask people two things, right, very early on in the process, is what is a comfortable monthly payment? Before they start getting into like, I want a 400,000 or 200,000, like give me a number, like with your budget, what is a comfortable monthly payment that you can be happy with long term, and just kind of using that as the reality check as we proceed through the process. So if they said $1,200 a month is a comfortable, happy number, and then they fall in love with something that's going to be $1,900 a month, let's just have that conversation. Let's just make sure that you're not going to be stretched. It's really important that this is something that you can stay with for the long term. And what happens if one of you has to cut back to working part-time, and just kind of helping people plan long term. So it's really important to get into a home that you can afford, that you don't stretch yourself, because we get excited when you see that $400,000 house that's just so pretty and shiny, and it has a pool and the parties, and then to be able to pull yourself back and say, hey, our agreement was that we are not going to spend more than X per month, and then just kind of looking at how long are you going to be in the house. That has an impact on like, are you buying it because this is going to be your forever home, or are you buying it because you want to be in the best neighborhood that's going to appreciate the most? So kind of figuring out like, what is the strategy? What's most important to you in buying the home? Is it just a home that you're going to be happy in forever, or is it also, part of your investment portfolio?
And to follow that up, what's the most important thing home buyers should consider when they're evaluating a mortgage consultant like yourself?
So generally, when you're working with a mortgage consultant, I think that an important, you need to look at the online reviews, talk to, talk to people that come recommended, because lenders in the community that are good, they're going to have a good reputation, and so your real estate agent is going to be able to recommend a trusted advisor that you can work with. Make sure that no matter, rate is not the most important thing. A lot of people will get kind of lost in the maze of online rate shopping. That is not the most important thing. We're all selling Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac products, and that person that says that they have a 2.875 interest rate, asterisk, right? with $400,000 in fees. There's a lot of noise and a lot of gimmicks out there. So I wouldn't be worried about the interest rate as much as I would be worried about the trustworthiness, the reputation, and really working with somebody that has got your back. A mortgage banker should be there for you. They should be able to meet with you, advise you, really look into what is going to be your best game plan, so to speak. Because when you're just first-time home buyer or second-time home buyer, or whatever it is, you can't even think of all the questions that you need to ask. And so you really need to have somebody that really has an interest in you and is not sitting in a call center somewhere, dialing for dollars, if you will.
Mm. Well, Jasmine, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. You've given us a lot of great content. If there's anything that you didn't cover that you would still like to leave with our listeners, what would that be?
I think we've covered pretty much the basics. The most important thing is don't be afraid. Work with somebody that's good, and go out there and find your dream home.
All right. Well, we're talking with Jasmine Krnjetin. Jasmine, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you if they need your help to get themselves that home mortgage?
So our website is jasmineteam.com. That's JASMINETEAM.com. And our number is 404-600-1500.
Excellent. Well, Jasmine, thank you for being my guest on Expert Profiles Atlanta. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And if you are looking for advice, visit Jasmine again at jasmineteam.com.
Thank you so much, Neil. It's been a pleasure.
And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share, and we'll see you next time on the show.
Thank you for listening to Expert Profiles Atlanta with Neil Howe. To learn more about the resources in the show or to listen to past episodes, visit expertprofilesatlanta.com.